Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. So let me get your take on, again, in terms of what you can do. Black Knight says Jack Smith really only has two options at this point. Stand pat, hope the Supreme Court moves as fast as possible, rules against Trump, leaves enough time for a trial. Two, indict all of Trump's co-conspirators, including members of Congress, fake electors, etc., put out a massive speaking indictment so the public has the truth before the election. I am so tired, Carl, of us playing by some different set of, Lady Bing rules. This is how we got here.
Well, I think a press conference is probably in order where things are detailed, and I would support having these unnamed folks named and indicted. Assuming that they've got the ability to do so, and that some of these people are cooperating or whatever. I think people are probably recalibrating across Washington and other places today.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see how they proceed, but hopefully they do not proceed by just laying down and waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been mentioning this over and over. Ellie Mistal said there's nothing you care about that survives a 6-3 Republican court for a generation. Nothing. I don't know how many times the court has to prove that for people before liberals unify and act. I mean, we've been talking forever about expanding the court. I mean, Carl, I think we have to fight differently. And, with Mitch McConnell leaving yesterday, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I don't think anyone has done as much damage to this country, I would argue, other than Donald Trump, would be Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, and what's nuts about it is that he's likely to be replaced by somebody worse.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so even Mitch McConnell.
Bobby Kennedy has endorsed Rand Paul. Mm-hmm. That seems like a great idea.
Thought you'd like that.
Just to complete the loop of crazy.
Oh my God. Well, and then you've got John Cornyn and John Thune and Barris from Wyoming. It's like none of this is better. And McConnell was awful. So that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Norm Ornstein. I'm just, going through all the legal experts, Carl. The brutal reality, John Roberts' Supreme Court is an ally of Donald Trump by taking its time to evaluate the immunity case and then deciding to stretch out its decision-making under these extraordinary circumstances. They are giving Trump immunity should he win. Just awful. That's what I was saying is they know. They are voting to give him immunity, even though, they can say, oh, no, we voted that, he doesn't have immunity. But they know exactly what they're doing, don't they?
Yeah, and what's nuts about it is that if they do decide that he does not have immunity and he's elected, then the subject doesn't even get revisited for a number of years if Trump isn't impeached and convicted by a future Congress.
Last one, Mary Trump. The Supreme Court of the United States just reminded us with this corrupt decision that the insurrection did not fail; it never ended. I mean, that's a great point, but it's ironic, right? The trial is about, about the coup, and they're basically enabling it to.
I mean, how many justices were appointed by presidents in recent years that didn't have a majority of the vote to get there in the first place? Mm-hmm. So, in a certain sense, it is all about preserving power and preserving paths for them to maintain power, and that's what's dangerous about this. And again. Anybody within the sound of our voices who's not taking this as a rallying cry to get up and get out and start doing things needs to listen a little bit more carefully.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all those friends that are like, oh, he gets away with everything. He'll get away. He won't pay a penny. He won't. I mean, that was the one sliver yesterday. Trump denied request to pause $454 million fraud verdict. I love that he thinks that they're like they're one of his contractors. Mm-hmm. How about you just take a penny on the dollar for what I owe? It's like, what? No, I mean, at least I will take any sliver of justice I can get. That they were like, what? No. So I don't know now how he's going to get the money, but it's just the rest of us don't get to do that.
No, and but again, all of these things that he does in court are just designed to delay and obfuscate. Right. So. His lawyers are going to probably file more motions and different kinds of appeals and different requests until they're forced to do.
Oh my God, it's like he thinks he's on Let's Make a Deal. Oh, no, 450. No, how about you take $100 million and what's in this refrigerator freezer? Okay. God.
Behind curtain number 3.
Yeah. The lovely Carol Merrill is showing it right
Exactly.
I
now.
don't think they're going to take $100 million and a dinette set.
Can I just say the kids loved that Carol Merrill reference? Okay.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, Carl.
Well, Carl and I
dinette
got
set.
it.
I mean, it's just, this is what I was afraid of. I was saying, I think they are so arrogant that they're going to say, no, we have to take this. We have to put our stamp on it. But it will give Donald Trump the immunity he's looking for. Even if they rule, against him, which, that part would be like, if they actually rule, there's the complete presidential immunity, that'll, forget it. Our system of laws is over.
Well, I think what this does is it impresses upon the need for the American people to provide justice in the form of their vote by ensuring that he is never in the White House ever again.
Yeah, I guess we can be forgiven for saying we already effing did that. Let's hold please. Tristan Snell said the Supreme Court heard and decided Bush v. Gore in 3 days. Sorry, thought it was 4, Carl. Boy, we've been talking ever since then. That was expediting a case of national importance. The Supreme Court apparently now thinks expediting means 3 months. Clearest evidence yet that SCOTUS is corrupt and broken. I mean, I guess that is the, I guess that's the lesson, like you said, and I get it. We have to pick ourselves up and brush ourselves off, but it is so infuriating.
I think it is natural for us as liberals to have high hopes that the Supreme Court will do the right thing. But eventually we're going to learn that this is not the Supreme Court that brought civil rights cases to the forefront and, improved the lot of millions of Americans. This is a Supreme Court that systematically sides with corporations. This is a Supreme Court that systematically presents problematic cases like overturning Roe. And so there's a reason why this court has an approval rating, I think, at 18% now.
It's dropped 40 points in the last, I don't even know what period of time.
So, liberals have historically had a fondness for the Supreme Court, at least the most recent generations of liberals, because of its record on civil rights. But that is not the Supreme Court that we're dealing with today.
Yeah. Victoria tweets, Hillary warned people every day the Supreme Court was on the ballot. She said if you didn't want to vote for her, vote to protect the court. But in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, 800,000 Democrats voted third party. She only lost by 77,000 votes. Maybe the trick is to stop repeating the same errors over and over again. And I can't help, Carl, but it's on the heels of this uncommitted vote in Michigan, which I understand, but we are at a particularly perilous time in our democracy. Just your thoughts as a longtime campaign strategist.
Well, I think people have a choice, and I think protest is fine. But this November, when push comes to shove, there are only 2 choices on the ballot that will have any substantive impact, and that is voting for Donald Trump or voting for Joe Biden.
Right.
And a vote for anybody other than those 2 is a vote for Donald Trump. So,
as we call him, His Excellency, Eric Holder, echoed your thoughts, Carl. He said there is no cavalry coming, no miracle solution, no saviors. In the end, we, the American people, not any of our institutions, have to save our democracy by voting in defense of that democracy this fall. We are the cavalry. The responsibility is ours. The only thing that, gave me hope is I thought, at least the good guys are in charge. You know what I mean? We don't have to feel like, the election's going to be stolen anyway because Trump and his corrupt, clan are in charge. I mean, you have to just hope we're going to have to fight for every last vote and that every last vote is counted, right?
Yeah, and I've seen some of the media talk about how liberals are fatalistic when it comes to this stuff, and that's true. We saw George W. and Donald Trump come into the White House without receiving the most votes. And so I think it's important that we channel that fatalism into something impactful and meaningful, and that is doing every single thing we can to make sure that Donald Trump is never elected or never seated as president.
Let me explain my rage lasagna to you this morning, Carl. It starts it actually started before then, but it started in 2000. But when you think about it, the fact that Al Gore won that election, that if they had finished counting, Al Gore, but some of these same justices that were working, as we said, as clerks, helped make sure they installed a Republican president in 3 days. That president is a war criminal who lied us into an unnecessary war. That was an unnecessary war. The fact that you're protesting, you don't like, how Biden's dealing with Netanyahu or whatever. This is a war criminal. How many Americans, right? First of all, died because the worst security failure in our history happened on his watch. Then we attacked the wrong country based on lies. I mean, oh my God, how many times must we say elections have consequences? Then you skip to 2016, and here we are today. The women have lost bodily autonomy. I mean, I think you're right. The fine line is turning that rage into voting and not into depression and hopelessness, right?
It has to be, and it can't just be voting either. Voting is not enough. Everybody has the power to do something extra than voting. Even if you can't get out of your house, you can do things from home that will increase the likelihood that Biden wins. You can make phone calls. You can donate money. You can call your friends and tell them to get involved because you can't. So there is no shortage of things that one can do. And whenever somebody feels hopeless or helpless or that we're doomed, that is the moment that they need to do even more.